Welcome to Preservation Oaks, the podcast where we invite you to step away from the bustle of everyday life. Settle in and relax, and take a moment to leave the familiar behind as we explore the hidden gems of America that preserve our cultural past. We call them our Preservation Oaks, and with each episode, we'll journey to a different corner of the country, where we'll discover the unique histories, landscapes, and communities that make up our nation. We'll visit with local museums, historical, and genealogical societies. They are the stewards of these stories. They preserve the legacy of each place like precious pieces of fabric in a quilt that binds the freedom-loving, hard-working people in this country together. So, slow down, grab a beverage, open your mind, and let us take you on a tour of the fascinating histories and heartfelt traditions that lie just beyond the horizon. This is Preservation Oaks, where every story is a stitch in the fabric of our shared culture. Now, join our host, Sean Radcliff, as he uncovers another thread in the tapestry of America's heritage and what it takes to preserve it.
Hey, good day, everyone. Thanks for being here. We've got a great program for you today. For this episode, we greet Dr. Cathy Chance Harvey, the president of the Walthall County Historical Society located in Tylertown, Mississippi. By the end of this episode, you'll want to join them in their mission to grow the organization on behalf of the community, preserve and protect local history, improve the present by supporting local businesses, and promote the general welfare of the community. By the way, our main platform is preservationoaks.podbean.com, but you can find us on nearly all podcast platforms as well as Rumble, Facebook, Podbean, Spotify, Apple, and YouTube. So wherever you listen to the program, I appreciate it very much when you like, comment, follow, or subscribe. If you're interested in being a guest on our program, or if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to email us at preservationoaks@gmail.com. Hey, a big shout out to all you who've been spreading the word about our program. Your support when you like, comment, follow, or subscribe means the world to us. By helping us reach more people, you're shining a spotlight on the incredible heroes of Preservation Oaks and giving them the recognition they truly deserve. So thank you for being awesome. All right, that being said, let's get this show snapping. Our guest today is Dr. Cathy Chance Harvey, president of the Walthall County Historical Society and guest writer for the Tylertown Times newspaper. Dr. Harvey is a Southern literature scholar, author, and lifelong educator. She holds degrees from Millsaps College, Duke University, and a PhD from Tulane, where her research into the writings of New Orleans author Lyle Saxon inspired her acclaimed book, The Life and Selected Letters of Lyle Saxon, published in 2022. Throughout her career, Dr. Harvey has taught English at colleges and universities across the country, including in Mississippi, Louisiana, South Carolina, and even Hawaii. Her love of storytelling began in childhood, listening to family tales and bedtime stories, and that passion has guided her ever since. Today, she lives in Tylertown, Mississippi, and continues to preserve history and culture through her leadership and scholarship. We're honored today to welcome Dr. Cathy Chance Harvey to Preservation Oaks. All right. Welcome to the program, Cathy.
Thank you.
Hey, I have to say, you're a great writer. I've enjoyed reading your articles in the Tylertown Times. Nice job.
So nice for you to say so. Thank you.
Hey, I also want to mention that you just recently had a birthday. Happy birthday. I hope it was a great day for you.
It was, and thank you so much.
You're welcome. I read Tylertown was originally called Connerly's Community before becoming Tylertown. What's your favorite story about that name change?
My favorite story about that whole subject is that Connerly's, as Tylertown was originally called, was named after my family. I'd like to talk about that for a minute. My great, I think there are three greats in there. Maternal grandfather was Owen Lewis Connerly, who came to Mississippi from North Carolina in 1822. He settled in a community called China Grove, which is located about 8 miles from Tylertown. Interestingly, there's a short story by one of Mississippi's Pulitzer Prize winners, Eudora Welty entitled Why I Live at the PO. It was first published in the American Monthly Magazine in 1941. It's one of her most anthologized short stories. The setting of this story, which takes place in 1941, is a fictional small town called China Grove, Mississippi, and quite likely inspired by our China Grove, the now extinct Walthall County community that Welty would have come across in her WPA travel. The post office at the real China Grove was established in 1836. China Grove had a church and plantations, grist mills, mercantile stores, a school, and a cotton gin. Eventually, though, with the coming of the railroads, the population declined, lured by the attractions of Tylertown. The post office was discontinued in 1921. Today, the once thriving village of China Grove is a ghost town, and all that remains is a lovely old clapboard Methodist church and its adjoining cemetery. But back to Owen Connerly, who came there in 1822. He bought the property belonging to Ralph Stovall, an earlier settler, including the mills that Stovall had built there on McGee's Creek. One of Owen's sons, Cullen Conner, left China Grove for business opportunities further south. In 1848, Cullen built his own set of mills, saw, gin, and grist, at the confluence of Dry Creek and McGee's Creek, a spot that is at the heart of what came to be known as Old Tylertown. Cullen bought out the Garland Hart store and established in it, with his brother-in-law, Benjamin Lampton, Connerly's post office, located on present-day Broad Street in Tylertown. The village thus came to be known as Connerly and was called that for the next 30 years until 1879, when the town's name was officially changed to Tylertown to honor another mill, Tyler's Mill, and the new mercantile concern, Lampton and Tyler, that had been established in the 1850s. That last name, Tyler, belonged to a Yankee, as Blanche Devereaux would say, William Glanville Tyler. Tyler was born in Boston, a blacksmith by trade. He was based in New Orleans, but on a business trip here, fell in love with a local young lady, married her, and built a blacksmith shop in the Dry Creek area, and bought the Jake Owens Mill in Gin. As historian Dr. Luke Lampton of Magnolia points out in his Walthall County Chronicles, the joy of the alliteration Tylertown was too much for the name Connerly's to overcome.
Oh, Peter. Wow, what a great heritage you have.
Thank you.
That's a fantastic story. Wow, thanks for sharing that.
The history of Tylertown right there in a nutshell.
Yeah, it's wonderful. Now, I've heard the historic New Orleans and Great Northern Railroad Depot still exists. What memories or myths do locals tell about it?
The New Orleans and Great Northern Railroad Depot is still standing. It's located at 114 Franklinton Street at the south end of Centennial Square in Tylertown. It was listed on the National Register of Historic Places in 2000. Today, it houses Coffee Caboose Roaster, a coffee shop, bakery, and cafe. And before the coffee shop, the depot housed the Whistle Stop Garden Center and gift shop. When the longleaf pine lumber boom erupted in South Mississippi, 3 railroads came through Walthall County. The Fernwood and Gulf built a logging line to Tylertown around 1905. It later became the Fernwood Columbia and Gulf Railroad. Formed in 1920, the FC&G operated 45 miles of short line railroad between Fernwood and Columbia, Mississippi, passing through Tylertown en route. It eventually became part of the Illinois Central. Its depot, that is the FC&G depot, stood next to the Great Northern Depot, and in recent years it housed a filling station and a small restaurant. Sadly, the building burned a couple of years ago. The FC&G had ceased operations in the 1980s.
Okay.
The New Orleans and Great Northern reached Tylertown in 1906 and built the depot. It ran both a passenger and a freight service until the 1970s. The third railroad, the Liberty White Railroad, operated a branch line into Tylertown in about 1912, and it was abandoned in 1918. It was the route that these railroads chose that moved Tylertown from old Tylertown, north of Dry Creek, the area that we just talked about with Connerly's Mill, to a new Tylertown, which is the present downtown. Of course, today the trains are gone and the tracks have been taken up. I think that people here have a romantic view of the railroad, as I believe Americans in general do, when it was the primary mode of transportation.
Yeah.
I think of that song, that old song by Arlo Guthrie, the spirit of New Orleans.
Yeah.
Hello, America, how are you? Don't you know me? I'm your native son. As far as the myths go, there has been talk among locals of a tunnel under Tylertown that the railroads used to use. Now, this is quite a coincidence. I had planned to talk about this myth of the tunnel under Tylertown. And lo and behold, today, Tuesday, September the 2nd, the day that our local paper comes out each week, there is a front page article on this very subject. Doug Walker, who also runs our radio station, WTYL, is an authority on the history of Tylertown. So his article is an attempt to put this myth to rest. He says that the Liberty White Railroad that came to Tylertown in 1912 entered north of Tylertown, crossed a Dry Creek, and came along where the old Avenue Theater building is today. And so any locals listening to this will know exactly where I'm talking about. The Liberty White had built a bridge overpass on Beulah Avenue. That is the main street of Tylertown. And the train continued on through what was at one time the basement of the Willie J. Guy store. The store wasn't there at the time, where it terminated at the Great Northern and the FC&G tracks at their depots. So they had done, the Liberty White had done what is called a cut through in railroad lingo. A deep cut was said to have been dug between buildings to reach the connection to the depots, as Tylertown is on a hill. So my understanding is that there was actually a bridge overpass for the train, but then in order to go down and make that connection to the depots, they had to make this cut through, which may have given rise to that idea of a tunnel, because it was a deep cut in the ground.
Okay. I thought maybe it was a prohibition tunnel. There's some...
Well, some people thought it was the getaway for the slaves, the Underground Railroad, but no, it was not any of that. As for memories, some of the old timers here fondly remember riding on the FC&G's passenger service, the Doodlebug, which was created in 1937. I recalled how excited I was when I first looked through my mother's old trunk and came across a scrapbook of hers with some FC&G ticket stubs.
Oh, cool.
As a college student in the mid-1920s, she would ride the train from Tylertown to Fernwood and then connect with the Illinois Central to get to Whitworth College in Brookhaven.
Very cool. Now, where do you have to go for passenger service today?
Well, we can drive to Macomb and get on the Amtrak there.
Okay. Well, hopefully that's not too far.
No, that's just 20 miles. Mm-hmm.
Yep, that's a great story. Thank you. Now, I understand you have China Grove Methodist Church, which was built back in 1861. It contains a slave gallery. Is that still a place people visit or reflect on?
So I mentioned China Grove earlier because the history of China Grove is the history of Tylertown. Tylertown really started at the China Grove community. It is located on Highway 585 North, about 8 miles from Tylertown. And every spring, the Methodists here in Tylertown gather at China Grove Methodist Church for the annual worship service and dinner on the grounds. It is a tradition that has been going on for nearly 150 years. And nothing much has changed. The only thing that's changed that instead of horses and wagons, there are automobiles. And the church looks exactly the same. Everyone is invited to this event. The church is sometimes used for a Christmas candlelight service by the Methodists and also the occasional wedding. According to Luke Connerly's History of Old Pike County, you remember when I was talking about Owen Connerly, who bought the Ralph Stovall property at China Grove?
Yeah.
Included in the act of sale was the church house property, which had been used by the Baptists out there. They'd been around since 1809 at China Grove, and they worshiped in a log cabin. But Owen Connerly came along and bought up all the land the church was on, too. So the property was deeded, and he was a Methodist, and he came with his brother, Luke Connerly, who was a Methodist minister. The two of them had married sisters in North Carolina. So the property was deeded to the Methodists in 1836. Construction of the church was begun in 1854 and completed in 1861 for a cost of $100. The church received a Mississippi State Historical Marker in 1975 and was listed on the National Register of Historical Places in 1984. The church is a Greek Revival wood frame church built of heart pine. Its construction demonstrates handcrafted techniques, including timber framing without nails. And it is a rare pre-Civil War example of a church with a slave gallery in Mississippi. It is amazing that it has survived architecturally intact. So many pre-Civil War churches have been renovated, those slave galleries torn down. A significant and unusual feature of the slave gallery at China Grove is that it's constructed like a double-tiered porch with columns extending to the ceiling. So the Methodist Church has always seen the need to preserve history, including the slave gallery. We might say, look at it as a recognition of the complex and painful history of slavery. And in that way, in its very preservation, honors the legacy of those who had to worship in a segregated space.
Yeah.
And for many years, white and Black people worshiped together at China Grove. I certainly remember that when I would visit when I was away from college. This was not so long ago. But eventually, the African American congregations have drifted to attend their own churches that were established really many years ago, right after the Civil War. There is the St. James United Methodist Church not far from China Grove, and the other outgrowth from the China Grove Church, the Brandon Bay United Methodist Church in Foxwood.
Okay. For those listeners that might not know, what is a slave gallery?
When worship services were held, and this is my understanding, and this sounds rather condescending, doesn't it? But the idea was that the white landowners who were in possession, literally in possession of slaves, wanted to see that they received religious instruction, wanted to have their souls saved and be allowed to attend church and worship. It's one idea. Another idea is that this way they could keep an eye on people, because if they didn't, they might have their own little secret meetings and come up with some ideas that would not be, very well received. And so they wanted them to go to church. But in that era of segregation, they had them separated sometimes by just attending at the back of the church, or actually having a upstairs area that was completely set off from the main congregation. And it meant that they had to stand.
Oh.
So while the white congregation is sitting down below, the Black congregation had to stand in the upstairs area. But this is not unlike, if you remember, this happened also at our courthouse. And when we had a tour of the courthouse not too long ago, they showed us, well, it's been removed now, but there was a gallery in the courthouse during the Jim Crow era when Black people had to stand there instead of mingle below with the white people. This happened, if you remember in the movie To Kill a Mockingbird,
Yeah.
When Atticus Finch is leaving the courtroom and the woman says, "Stand up, that's your daddy passing by." And those Black people are standing in a gallery above the first floor of the courthouse.
Right.
It's the same idea.
Okay, thanks for explaining that. Now, the China Grove Church, I was reading that it also has some local legends associated with it and ghost stories. How does the Historical Society approach these unwritten, sometimes mysterious parts of local folklore?
Unfortunately, we discourage the telling of ghost stories, anything like that about China Grove. I hate that because I love ghost stories. But we feel that it encourages vandalism. And the reason why is China Grove is, as I've explained, is not an active church, and it is somewhat isolated where it is located. There are no houses around there. It's really off to itself. And so teenagers go out there. A lot of young people go out there. They have tried to break into the church. They have succeeded on occasion, and they have destroyed monuments in the cemetery.
Oh.
So we feel that it's just better not to encourage seances and devil worship and that kind of thing that might go on if we talk about it. So we feel that people need to look for ghosts in their own backyard.
Yeah, and keep the kids at home, especially in the teenage years. They get up to no good. Now, what are some intriguing historical anecdotes from your county or town that showcase its unique identity?
I have a couple of these. The first one is a story that another local historian, attorney Joe Stinson, likes to tell. One cold evening in the winter of 1973, the newly appointed Mississippi State Game and Fish Commission warden, Otis Simmons, found 4 dead rabbits in a pickup truck belonging to dairy farmer J.D. Turnage. The warden claimed that the rabbits had been jacklighted, shot at night using a truck's headlights to hypnotize them, which is illegal. So Otis was determined to uphold the law, so he arrested the farmer. J.D. Turnage, the kind of fellow who fought back, immediately demanded a trial by jury. As Joe Stinson describes it, Justice Hillman Thomas of the Dexter community presided over the trial held in his living room, where Turnage faced 6 jurors. Turnage admitted that he had killed the cottontails because it looked like they had been sucking milk from his cows. In fact, Turnage testified, the rabbits were a special milk-sucking breed and that they worked as a team, cutting out one of the cows from the rest of the herd. Each one reportedly took a spigot and sucked milk from that cow. With this testimony, the defendant was found not guilty. Now, back then, Walthall County, this is how this story happens to be relevant to this area, how it showcases its unique identity. Walthall County was called the cream pitcher of Mississippi because of the large number of dairy farms. So the all-male jury from the Dexter community had stuck together to protect the dairy farmers. To them, J.D. Turnage was a hero who shot the rabbits for interfering with his dairy business. Now, this story appeared in the New Orleans Times-Picayune, with a cartoon of a Holstein cow with 4 rabbits sucking the spigots. From there, this story took a life of its own. It was in newspapers all over the country, from the states of Washington, New Mexico, Texas, Illinois. Even London, England ran this story. And I found online in the historical newspapers really one of the more inventive headlines about the milk-sucking rabbits that appeared in the Rochester, New York newspaper, the Democrat and Chronicle. And the headline read, "A Hairline Decision."
That's very good.
So this is a true story. That was a true story.
That's great. That's great.
Another incident involves the formation of Walthall County. Now, according to official reports, State Senator Bilbo who would later serve 2 terms as governor of Mississippi, helped get the bill to form the new county through the state legislature in March of 1910. Now, Bilbo was looking to firm up a political base. He was about to run for lieutenant governor, and he knew he was later going to run for governor. And he had a brother living in Tylertown, Monroe. And you see, Tylertown had been incorporated in 1907, long before Walthall County was made a county. Anyway, Bilbo got this bill passed through the House and the Senate, but it was defeated in April by the popular vote. And it wasn't until 1914 that the county was formed. Now, in researching an article that I had done for our local paper on the construction of our courthouse, I came across some really interesting material. The 1914 newspapers in April and June had one article after another about a bribe of $1,500 that reportedly found its way to Bilbo for getting the bill through, and an investigation ensued. No indictment was handed down, however. All the Walthall citizens who testified before the grand jury, they all said the same thing. I can't remember. The July 19th, 1914 Jackson Daily News ran this story.
Very cool.
While 2 passengers, one of whom was a friend of Lieutenant Governor Bilbo, the other a resident of Walthall County, were riding out on the FG Railroad to Tylertown, Mississippi, the following conversation took place. We are now passing into the new county of Walthall, are we not? Yes, we are full into the new county. I understand that you all gave my friend Bilbo credit for this county. No, sir, in this you are sadly mistaken. We paid cash for it.
Oh, what wonderful people back then, huh? That's great.
So our county supposedly was bought and paid for.
Yeah, well, got to do what it takes, right? Now, can you share the year and the motivations behind starting your organization and how initial experiences influenced its direction?
The Walthall County Historical Society was founded, the original society was founded in 1998 by Dr. Luke Lampton of Magnolia and Tylertown's Dale McGee Clausen. Dale primarily ran the organization, and in recent years it had lost steam, particularly during COVID. And she passed away in 2020. Dale McGee Clausen did. So I was asked by Pam Keaton, the Director of Economic Development in Tylertown, to revive the society. That was in December, really, of 2023. So how could I refuse? How could I refuse Pam Keaton?
Yeah.
So our first meeting was in January of 2024. So just last year, we had monthly meetings through May and from September through November. I invited a mix of speakers, including talented local people, as well as men and women from the Speakers Bureau of the Mississippi Humanities Council. And from the beginning, the talks were outstanding, which led me to feature a guest at every meeting. We also provide a complimentary buffet supper, which, as you can imagine, tends to be very popular. We have consistently drawn an average of 40 people, sometimes 50, which is really amazing for a small town like Tylertown. A particularly well-attended meeting took place in April when Judge Ryan Brull arranged a tour of our historic courthouse and jail, featuring Attorney Joe Stinson as the storyteller. So that off-site meeting led me to arrange another one this year, a tour of the historic John Ford home in Sandy Hook, Mississippi. We hope to do more such tours in the future.
Just fantastic. I'm glad you were involved and you are involved. You've got such a great way of communicating with people and getting people involved. I'm sure the town is very appreciative.
Oh, well, thank you so much for saying that.
Now, I'd like to provide listeners with the contact information for the organization. You can visit their website at Walthall, that's Walthall, Walthall County Historical Society.com, which is under construction, by the way, guys. So it's not all there at this point, but it will be in the future. The real place you want to go is Facebook. Just look for facebook.com, Chance, Chance 7 Harvey, Harvey. That'll take you right to the page. You can email them at c.chanceharvey@gmail.com. You can write them at P.O. Box 405, Tylertown, Mississippi 39667. And you can phone them at 228-223-3984. That sound right, Cathy?
Yes, that sounds right.
All right. I think we should take a break, Cathy.
Okay, sounds good.
Listeners, we'll be right back after these important messages.
In the heart of Tylertown, Mississippi, history is alive, and it's waiting for you. The Walthall County Historical Society is dedicated to preserving the stories, landmarks, and legacies that make our community unique. From local family histories to the treasured traditions of our county, the Society works hard to protect the past so future generations can learn, remember, and be inspired. But here's the best part. You can be a part of it. Membership in the Walthall County Historical Society isn't just about preserving history. It's about belonging to and building something bigger. Members enjoy opportunities to connect with fellow history lovers, participate in local projects, explore archives, and take part in events that celebrate our shared heritage.
Whether you're a lifelong resident or new to the area, there's a place for you in the Society. Joining is easy. For details, reach out by email at c.chanceharvey@gmail.com or call 228-223-3984. Don't wait. Help keep history alive in Walthall County. Become a member today, and together let's preserve the stories that matter most.
The Walthall County Historical Society, where the past comes alive, because the future deserves to remember.
Oh, this miserable cold. And my sinuses.
Haven't you heard about Dristan? Dristan decongestant tablets for real relief from cold's misery and sinus congestion. Dristan is the revolutionary 3-layer tablet which for the first time makes it possible to unite certain medically proven ingredients into one fast-acting uncoated tablet. Dristan not only helps drain all 8 sinus cavities, critical areas of cold's infection, but circulating through the blood, Dristan's decongestant reaches all congested areas, shrinks all swollen membranes, relieves pressure and pain. An exclusive anti-allergent helps keep breathing passages dry and clear. Pain relievers reduce body aches, fever. Vitamin C helps build body resistance. This is Dristan. Today, Dristan is widely imitated, but the exclusive Dristan formula cannot be duplicated. There's nothing like Dristan decongestant tablets.
Hot chocolate with a magical flavor you won't be able to resist. At our refreshment stand now.
Hello, no one is available to take your call. Please leave a message after the tone.
Hello. Good evening, Mr. Martin. It's Hans here. Sorry to call you at home, but it's about the new building. The new building we had the grand opening for last month. The $125 million building. Well, you know how we here use the metric system, obviously. Turns out the engineers don't. So, because of that it appears to be leaning somewhat dramatically. We got jacks and might save it yet, but statistically speaking it's unlikely. So please call me back, please.
Have some unexpected free time coming up soon? Make good use of your free time listening to Preservation Oaks.
Here's a list of the essentials you'll need to renovate your bathroom whenever you get the time. Safety mask, gloves, goggles, caulking gun, propane torch, silicone sealant, tape measure, putty knives, stud finder, tiles, pry bar, power drill, bucket, chisel, adjustable wrench, screwdrivers, hacksaw, utility knife, several strong cups of coffee, chalk line, paint, brushes, flooring, tub enclosure, plumbing essentials, and an extension cord. And here's a list of the essentials you'll need to volunteer at your local genealogical or historical society instead. A smile. A handshake. An ability to meet and greet people and have fun, a knowledge of local history, research skills. Enjoy volunteering at your local genealogical or historical society today. That's very helpful of you, and benefits your community.
And now, back to Preservation Oaks.
But you wanna have fun. It'll start when you are done. Oh, well, changes gotta come when your games are never won. Oh, but you wanna have fun. It'll start when we are done. Oh, but changes gotta come when your games are never won. Oh, but you wanna have fun. It'll start when you are done. It's a chance. Got a chance. Better change.
Well, there you are. Welcome back. Let's get going. We're so glad you're back. Welcome. Now on with the program.
Welcome back to Preservation Oaks. I'm your host, Sean Radcliff, and we're here today with Cathy Chance Harvey, the president of the Walthall County Historical Society, located in Tylertown, Mississippi. Let's pick up where we left off. Welcome back, Cathy.
Good to be back.
Fantastic. Cathy, can you describe how your organization supports the community? What are its key missions, and who comprises its membership?
On a basic level, the Historical Society builds community by bringing people together who share a common interest and by celebrating local history. It helps to preserve historical sites and commemorate and interpret significant events, places, and artifacts in our county's history. Since its revival last January, the Society has secured a state historical marker for our historic courthouse and jail. We have raised nearly $10,000 in donations for an iron fence for historic Founder Cemetery and the continued maintenance of that cemetery. Through the efforts of primarily Society member Darrell Holt, we have commemorated the life of our beloved newspaper publisher and editor-in-chief, Carolyn Dillon, who passed away in January of this year by persuading the town to name a street after her, which is marked with an iconic green sign that reads Carolyn Dillon Way.
That's wonderful.
We have produced, through the creative efforts of Society member Kim Allen of Magnolia House, a hand-poured scented commemorative candle called the Carolyn Candle, gifted to family members and available for purchase. The Society partnered with the Blue Devils Reunion Organization this spring to raise $1,800 in restaurant vouchers for those people who were impacted by the tornadoes that devastated our community in March of this year. We had over 180 homes that were either completely destroyed or severely damaged.
Oh, my goodness.
We have recently reprinted for purchase a historic 1922 Tylertown cookbook compiled by the Women's Missionary Society of the Tylertown Methodist Church. We promote local business wherever possible. For example, our tornado vouchers, they are not credit cards for Walmart. They are for local restaurants. So we want people to spend their money in Tylertown. We have featured dishes and desserts from local restaurants at our suppers and call attention at the start of the meeting to those donors. This month, our entire dinner, we're having a man talk about his canoe trip down the Mississippi River. Brian Askew. And so Judge, again, our wonderful active society member, Judge Ryan Brule, has invited Popwell's Restaurant to cater our whole dinner of fried catfish and fried shrimp and hush puppies and French fries in honor of the Mississippi River trip.
Very cool.
So in securing the Magnolia House for the location of our new museum, we hope to promote the business there, which is a floral shop and an events venue. So talking about our membership is comprised primarily, as you might expect, of retirees, but we also count a number of working professional people among our membership. In fact, the reason we schedule our meetings at 5 o'clock in the evening instead of at 12 noon is to attract a younger segment of the community who may have jobs.
Fantastic. Now, this Magnolia House, is it a historic house in the area, or what is it exactly?
Yes, the Magnolia House is located out on main highway between Tylertown and Macomb, Mississippi, located on Highway 98 West. It's been there for a number of years, but it was recently taken over by a young woman, Kim Allen, and her mother. They are from Folsom, Louisiana. And the house is a historic house itself. It's the Ford Connerly House, a Connerly who is related to the Connerlys who established Tylertown. And these women from Folsom, Louisiana, have become absolutely obsessed with the history of Tylertown. I think they know more than I do. They have gone to the courthouse. They have researched the records. They have immersed themselves in the history of Tylertown. And so they have made a business out of a flower arrangement and takeout lunches, and also using the house as a special events venue where people can have private dining at lunch or in the evening or whenever they might want it. And we are so lucky, so fortunate to have these women offer that house as a permanent place for our museum. They're giving us the entire upstairs as well as a room downstairs.
Wow, that is very generous and very cool for you guys.
It
is very
is.
Cool. Fantastic news. That's great. Thanks for telling us about it.
Mm-hmm.
Cathy, can you discuss your journey and the experiences that brought you to your role as president in the organization in January of 2024?
I think the reason that I was tapped for this role is that for several years before, I was writing newspaper articles on a volunteer basis for our local newspaper, the Tylertown Times, that dealt with the history of the area. I have published articles on the funerary art in China Grove Historic Cemetery, the history of the Methodist Women's Missionary Society, a history of the construction of the Walthall County Courthouse and Jail, which questions the validity of the recognized architect of the courthouse, a 3-part series celebrating Black History Month through Mardi Gras tradition. Several years ago, I conducted a successful fundraising effort for China Grove Methodist Church by selling note cards with the image of the church drawn on it by Doug Walker, and another image of the church painted by Mississippi artist Miriam Ween, courtesy of Susan McDonald of Nashville. It's a very successful fundraiser. In a larger sense, my academic background certainly has fostered this role. My areas of interest are 19th and 20th century British and American literature, and the literary discipline naturally is closely entwined with history. In 2003, I published a biography of Louisiana author Lyle Saxon, who was also a preservationist. It is said that he single-handedly saved the French Quarter. He died in 1946. And more recently, I'm involved in researching the life of Lyle's grandmother, Elizabeth Lyle Saxon, who was an early suffragist and writer. I plan to write her biography, which will be set against the historical background of the Indian removal of 1830 to 1847, the Civil War, and the women's suffragist movement beginning in 1879 in Louisiana. So you can see that I read history one way or another, night and day.
Yeah, that's cool. New book. That's great.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. What notable events or exhibits are on the horizon that the community should look forward to?
So the most notable event is what we just spoke about, the opening of the new Walthall Heritage Museum in the Magnolia House that is owned by Kim Palmisano Allen and her mother, Patricia Palmisano, originally from Folsom, Louisiana. Our former museum, the Railroad and Transportation Museum, was established in 2014 by former Historical Society President Dale McGee Clausen, and it was run for 8 years by Jim Stogner, who did an outstanding job of collecting artifacts and maintaining an informative Facebook page. It was housed in a portion of the Great Northern Depot. When the coffee shop came, the museum had to leave, and that was 3 years ago. The artifacts have been in storage. So now we found a new home for the museum in the Magnolia House, and we won't be calling it the Railroad and Transportation Museum. It will be reimagined as Walthall Heritage Museum. Materials from the Railroad and Transportation Museum will be on display, along with some new items. In the history room downstairs, a featured exhibit will be a 5-foot-long saw blade that was retrieved from Connerly's mill.
Cool.
Also, in terms of what we are looking forward to here is installing, so I mentioned that we have a new iron fence over our historic cemetery, Founder Cemetery, but we're looking forward to getting a plaque put on that fence honoring a woman named Mabel Pittman, who was the founding regent of the DAR in China Grove, who was the paternal grandmother of Dr. Luke Lampton, who donated the fence. You've probably noticed that Dr. Lampton's name comes up a lot, but Dr. Lampton, who is a medical doctor, a family medicine doctor in Magnolia, also owns the Magnolia Gazette newspaper, the historic Magnolia Gazette, and is on the board of the Mississippi Department of Archives and History, and is probably the most notable historian when it comes to a knowledge about the history of this area. So anyway, we're looking forward to that plaque and also to acquiring a sundial to be placed inside the cemetery to honor Jerry and Lou Ann Holmes, the parents of Jeremy Holmes of Pygott Oil, who gave the Historical Society a generous donation for the upkeep of the cemetery.
That's great. Now, Cathy, the Judith Robinson chapter of the DAR has completed some incredible historical preservation projects in the area. Could you tell us about the Joseph May Cemetery restoration and the work it took to honor a Revolutionary War patriot?
The Joseph May Cemetery is located at 199 Sauls Road in JS, Mississippi, about 20 miles from Tylertown. The Judith Robinson chapter of the DAR, that's our local chapter that's sort of headquartered in Macomb, but people from Tylertown and Macomb and this area belong to that chapter. So that chapter began the restoration in 2015 and completed it in 2016 at a cost of around $6,000. It was spearheaded by Chair of the Preservation Committee, Janice Brock from Tylertown, and her co-chair, Sylvia Johnson from Tylertown. So these two women, with the help of Janice's husband, Adris, Regent Sue Boyd, Terry Stinson, and some other people, cleaned the headstones that were there, ordered replacement headstones for those buried there, including monuments for Revolutionary War patriot Joseph May, as well as for 2 veterans of the War of 1812 and for 1 Confederate soldier. And also a separate marker to honor the children buried there. They also secured an iron fence to enclose the cemetery. And so Janice Brock, who was the force behind that restoration, is especially appreciative of the volunteer work of a man named Michael Street, who lives near the cemetery and happens to be a member of the Church of Latter-day Saints in Columbia. Now, you know, I don't have to tell you that how the Mormon Church is very focused on preservation. Yep. And Michael cleared the land of that abandoned, overgrown cemetery at the outset with his tractor, and to this day maintains the site. He belongs to the Church of Latter-day Saints in Columbia. Funds for the project came from donations from ancestors, local businesses, and from members of the local DAR chapter, as well as from the Walthall County Historical Society, the Magnolia chapter of Colonial Dames, 17th century. And it certainly does take a lot of work to honor a Revolutionary War patriot and other soldiers as well. Janice researched military records, land and census records. One must prove that the soldier is buried there and get permission from the landowner to erect a monument. The application to Veteran Affairs for a monument is lengthy and complex. But the Joseph May Cemetery Restoration Project won first in the state of Mississippi in the DAR's Historic Preservation Committee Project Contest. And Sylvia Johnson was on hand to accept this award. In 2017, it placed second in the Southeastern District. The Joseph May Cemetery has been declared a historical cemetery with the National Register of Historic Places.
There was a town in Michigan that took 12 years to restore their cemetery, and they call it an outdoor museum, because you can go through that cemetery and all of the families that were in the area through history are represented there. And many of their descendants are children today in the local school. And so they bring those children to the cemetery to help maintain it every year. It's an amazing success story that you've done.
But that sounds like that is a large cemetery.
Yeah, very big.
While the Joseph May Cemetery and the Founder Cemetery, these are small cemeteries.
Still, very cool work. Very cool work you guys have done. Thank you for sharing that. Now, the Founder Cemetery restoration raised more than $8,000. What does this level of community support signal about the residents' commitment to their local history?
Well, so like the Michigan cemetery that you just described, where the townspeople are buried and the descendants now go to look at their graves, Founder Cemetery contains the graves of 88 people. The founders of Tylertown, these were settlers, soldiers, merchants, yeoman farmers, teachers. So the Judith Robinson chapter of the DAR began the restoration of Founder Cemetery in 2018. It was completed in 2019. Again, that restoration was spearheaded by Janice Brock and Sylvia Johnson. With some help, Janice is always adamant in reminding me that there were other people who helped. I think I went up there and raked leaves or something one day. The monuments were cleaned and repaired, and 40 new monuments were purchased, including those for Revolutionary War patriot William Thornhill, 2 War of 1812 veterans, and 2 Civil War soldiers. There are actually 6 Civil War soldiers buried there in all. So Janice and Sylvia raised over $10,000 for this work with donations from local businesses, descendants, and organizations. And Janice Brock won a national DAO award for her work with this cemetery, and it received a state historical marker in 2019.
Very cool.
Clearly, the amount of money that was raised for both these cemetery restorations proves that our community is committed to preserving local history. We are also fortunate to have a mayor, Mayor Ed Hughes, who considers historical preservation a priority. In fact, he is responsible for the handsome wooden fence that encloses 3 sides of Founders Cemetery. As mentioned earlier, the Historical Society received a donation of an iron fence to front the cemetery from the road. So now the cemetery is completely enclosed. Mayor Hughes also recently directed the town to build a protective shed over the original machinery of the waterworks of Tylertown, built by my grandfather, Carl Ball, in 1916. So we are very fortunate here in Tylertown to have a mayor who recognizes the importance of these things.
Absolutely. Fantastic. Mm-hmm. Cathy, the Phantoms of Founders tour sounds like a very creative way to engage the community. Can you describe the event and the public response to that event? Are there plans for similar projects in the future?
The Phantoms of Founders Historical Cemetery Twilight Tour was performed on October 6, 2019 as a fundraiser for the Judith Robinson chapter of the DAR. It was a tour of Founders Cemetery where, as we have said, our founders are buried. All these people who populated the village of Connerly's, later Tylertown. On the tour, the phantoms appeared next to their grave sites in period costumes and told their life stories. I wrote the script for this play. This was my idea. I thought of having a play not unlike the ones that they do in Natchez and Port Gibson and other places on a larger scale. So the play I wrote, the script was 18 single-space typed pages. And it was a wonderful play because, for one thing, the way the graves in that cemetery are laid out, it lends itself to a chronological journey of the history of the town. Beginning at the back of the cemetery is the Revolutionary War soldier. Behind him are the 1812 soldiers. Behind them, at the second station, I had 4 stations. The second station, beyond the 1812 soldiers, is a Civil War soldier, my great-grandfather, Colonel James Connerly, and his wife, a hotel keeper. And so here we come upon them, and we had a wonderful woman, Annette Connerly, playing the Mary Connerly, the hotel keeper. And she's 90 years old now, so she's up in years. She and James Connerly, who was played by the Baptist minister, the minister of the Baptist church, they ad-libbed their parts, and it was just hilarious. I cannot tell you how funny it was. But also, next to them was Benjamin Lampton, who isn't really buried at Founders, but 2 of his children are, so I felt like I could get away with having Dr. Luke Lampton come and play his ancestor. And this is the man who, you will remember, had the beginnings of his mercantile empire in Old Tylertown on Dry Creek when he started that post office with Colin Connerly. Benjamin Lampton was the first postmaster.
Yeah.
So, and then next to them is the town drunk, James Holloman, who, had a bottle of whiskey in his hand, and he was ranting and raving. And then as you circle around to the left are the 2 more Civil War soldiers who are sons-in-law of dear old Glanville Tyler, the man our town is named after, who is buried at Founders. And that brings us up to the turn of the century. The last station featured the first mayor of Tylertown, George Collins, who died in 1915, and George Ball, who built the town's waterworks, who died in 1942. So you see, we go from the Revolutionary War soldier through the Civil War, up through Reconstruction and the reframing of the businesses after the Civil War, into the turn of the century and more modern Tylertown. We even have a reference to the 1918 flu epidemic, as there was a woman buried at Founders, Maggie Lenore Holmes Reagan, who died of the flu in 1919. It was the last burial in Founders.
Oh, right.
And she has the only above ground tomb. And people think, they like to say, talking about myths, that it was because of the germs that would seep into the ground, but that wasn't the reason. It had rained constantly a few days before she died, so the ground was too wet to dig a grave. So they had an above ground tomb. So the script of the play has a lot of cross references where the various people make reference to each other buried there because so many of the people were related who were buried there. So the play was to be performed at dusk. There were to be 2 performances. So by the second play, it would be dark. So the Judith Robinson DAR chapter, they had that cemetery lit up like you wouldn't believe, with tiki torches and lanterns everywhere. But guess what? It rained.
Oh, no.
And so we all had to go into the library. But we had decorated the library and had a sumptuous buffet supper laid out for after the play. And so it became like a dinner theater. And people loved it. And the response from the community was overwhelming. First, in the fact that we were able to get so many volunteers, and I really have the Baptist Church to thank for that. They were so forthcoming in volunteering to be in that play and making costumes and that sort of thing. And then we tried to get as many descendants, like you were saying, at the Michigan Cemetery, where the children would come and take care of the descendants who live here today to play the parts of their ancestors who are buried at Founders.
Very cool.
We know that we should do this play every year, and we are looking forward to making plans for next October with a view to doing a kind of a spooky rendition at Halloween.
What a wonderful society you have. And God bless you and your volunteers. That's great. That's a lot of work.
It is a lot. It's a huge amount of work. If you can imagine herding cats, getting these people to, there had to be at least 2 practices. And of course, nobody could come at this. People can't come at the same time. And so we had to do practices in segments, you see, depending on when the people could come. But it worked out beautifully.
We have a saying here in Salt Lake, it's like nailing Jell-O to a tree.
It's kind of like that.
All right. Cathy, what are some of the most significant donations your organization has received? And what role do they play in enhancing your collection?
Our collection at the moment is comprised primarily of the Railroad and Transportation Museum, papers, photographs, and artifacts. Recently, we received from a minister in Maine an exquisite quilt that had been put together back in, 2004. It was a beautiful quilt that features 9 churches in Walthall County. It's currently being framed, and we were going to hang this in a place of honor in the history room of the museum in the Magnolia House. We've recently acquired these 2 vintage cookbooks, the 1913 and 1922 Tylertown cookbooks, comprised by the Missionary Society, which will be exhibited under glass. And I think I mentioned that also downstairs in the history room, we will have almost as a centerpiece, because I think it's the most interesting thing we have, which is a 5-foot toothed saw blade that was retrieved from Connerly's Mill. And we actually have 2 of them, because this is, symbolic of the very beginnings of time.
All right. Now, you're making available copies of the 1922 cookbook for people to purchase with a donation, right?
We are. Yes, we are. We're going to have those available at our next meeting.
Okay. And if people listening are interested, do they just reach out to you and call you or send you an email? How can they buy them?
So the best way is to contact me through an email or message me on Facebook.
Got it. Thank you for sharing your information about the kind of artifacts that you have in your collection right now. Cathy, what can you tell us about the overall scope and scale of the artifacts and records your organization holds?
Now, this question I can't really answer because we have yet to sift through all of the material from the former museum. But I would like to take the opportunity to say that we need volunteers for this project if any of the local people listening are interested. Everything is still in boxes.
Right. And we love volunteers, and you could use the help. Fantastic. How does your organization secure its funding, and what specific financial objectives have you set for the year?
We rely primarily on donations for our funding, both corporate and individual. Regarding the coming year, I am intent upon applying for a couple of grants, one in particular recommended to me by the Department of Archives and History, the Mississippi Department of Archives and History. And of course, we hope to continue to be blessed by corporate donations, particularly in light of the progress we have made since reviving the society.
All right, fantastic. I'm sorry to interrupt, Cathy, but it's time for us to take a break for a few minutes.
Okay, excellent.
Listeners, we'll be right back after these important messages.
Every county has a story, but if no one preserves it, those stories fade away. In Walthall County, Mississippi, the Walthall County Historical Society is working tirelessly to safeguard the memories, landmarks, and legacies that define our communities. From restoring historic sites to collecting oral histories and protecting valuable records, the Society ensures that the past isn't forgotten. But preserving history takes more than passion. It takes support. That's where you come in. Your donations, no matter the size, make a lasting difference. With your help, the Historical Society can obtain a home, host community programs, fund preservation projects, and inspire future generations to value where they came from. Imagine saving a crumbling piece of local history, digitizing an old family record, or sharing the story of Walthall County with children who will carry it into tomorrow. Your contributions make that possible.
Donating is simple. You can send your support to P.O. Box 405, Tylertown, Mississippi 39667, or reach out by email at c.chanceharvey@gmail.com. You can even call 228-223-3984 to learn how your gift can keep history alive. Don't let Walthall County stories slip into the past. Give today and be a guardian of history for generations to come.
The Walthall County Historical Society, preserving yesterday, inspiring tomorrow, with your help.
When I was new, I was solid as a rock and ready for work. I could carry 1,700 pounds. My frame was made of hickory, poplar, and my tongue from an ash tree. I was sold to Bill and Mary. They loaded me up almost every week with all manner of things to haul. Spot and Brownie were hitched up to me and we all went along to town. I also hauled things the family needed from town back to the farm. When Mary died suddenly, they put her in me for the gentle final ride to the cemetery. Bill kept using me all the time, through all kinds of weather. I took a beating over those years. Then, for a long time, I stood behind the barn, alongside the thresher, unmoving and slowly rusting. I watched machines go by, hauling more than I can. Finally, I was loaded on the back of a flatbed truck, and they took me to a workshop. There, I was lovingly refurbished. They made sure all my parts were put back like new, and my wheels turned again. I was parked inside a museum. Electric lights show me off, and every day, people talk about how I'm made, how beautiful my wood is, and sometimes, occasionally, someone mentions Mary and Bill. I feel so proud that I can help others understand the past, which I guess I'm now a part of.
Rather than throwing it out, please donate historical records and objects to your local historical society today.
I am General Matto Vandu Maximanus, from the planet you refer to as BD 114672C. I am the legate of the 2nd AB Picturis B region, governor of the approaches to NU Octantis A B, interplanetary consul, commander of the legions of AB Picturis A, 91 Aquari B, Mu Leonis B, and Gamma Librae B, and I listen to Preservation Oaks on Microstream Radio.
And now, back to Preservation Oaks.
All right. Welcome back to Preservation Oaks. I'm your host, Sean Radcliff, and we're here today with Cathy Chance Harvey, the president of the Walthall County Historical Society located in Tylertown, Mississippi. Let's pick up where we left off. Cathy, can you highlight some of the fundraising events or opportunities your organization offers to help fulfill its mission?
We are always open to single gifts and donations. As we've mentioned, we do have these upcoming fundraising projects, the sale of the 1922 cookbook, and a sale I hope to get going, which is a reprint of the very popular note cards that Doug Walker, who is also an artist, did many years ago. They are pencil drawings of iconic buildings in Tylertown. Everyone who ever bought any of Doug Walker's note cards, well, I should speak just for myself, but I know it's true. I know of people who have these. For example, Judge Brule have these framed in his office. But most people who ever bought them, they saved one set of them because we need, once they were gone, that was going to be it. But Doug has the original drawings, and one of my goals is to have these reprinted and make new note cards, which I think everyone would love to have as a fundraiser for the Historical Society. Also, the book entitled From the Beginnings of Pictorial History, which is a book of photographs of old Tylertown with detailed captions, is no longer available. In fact, when Allen County Library, when the Genealogical Center there wanted a copy of that book, I literally went on Facebook and offered $40 for one of those books. And of course, I got no offers. But it turns out that Doug Walker did have one, and he gave it to me, and I was able to send it to the library there in Indiana. But my hope that while we may not be able to reprint that book, we could at least make copies of it, because it is so much in demand. I have to say here that there has been, in the last couple of years, a kind of resurgence of interest in Tylertown amongst the people who live here. There's a lot going on that was not going on before. We have Facebook pages dedicated to, for example, memories growing up in Tylertown. What's up, Tylertown? Tylertown community page. There's just and maybe that's part of it, that social media brings people together.
Yeah.
And we have an arts council suddenly, that we have the new Historical Society that wasn't really doing anything before. And that's why these things I'm talking about, the note cards, the book, would be very well received, I think.
Fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. Cathy, how does membership aid your organization's efforts, and what choices do individuals have for joining?
So our membership is key to the success of our organization. First, in just showing up to meetings, and everyone is welcome. You do not have to be a member to come to one of the meetings, because we are still in the beginning stages of building membership and we want people to see what we do. So we ask people who come and who haven't paid dues, and they don't have to pay dues, but to give us a love offering, a small donation, because we do offer supper at every one of our meetings. Second, another thing, individual initiative is vital to our success. For example, I mentioned Judge Brules organizing a tour of the courthouse, Daryl Holt, who single-handedly honored with a street sign. He ordered that street sign. When he got it in his hands, he tackled one of our members of our board of supervisors, had him put it up. He wasn't going to wait around and go through the red tape. He got it done immediately. And all the members who donate a dish or a dessert to our suppers, the owners of the Magnolia House, answering our prayer for a museum. And of course, those who make monetary donations, and especially those who have done it more than once. So I want to take this opportunity to urge any local members listening to get involved. I'd like to see more participation in our fundraising projects, even just in the preparation and cleanup for our meetings. People, have said to me, well, all you have to do is ask. Well, we don't know what you need. I would like to see more initiative on the part of the members where they volunteer without being asked.
Right, that sounds great. A lot of organizations put that on their website. They have a page. Usually it's the volunteer page, but it says, right now, here's what we need, right? That kind of thing.
Right. And if we had that website going, that would certainly be the way to do it.
Yeah.
And I will remember that.
Now, Cathy, what community outreach and educational programs does your organization offer to help share local history?
At this point, as new as our organization is, we don't offer such programs yet, but I welcome any suggestions in this regard, as well as any volunteer efforts to carry them out.
All right, fantastic. Hey, when is the Magnolia House coming online as your home?
Do you mean a separate sort of web page that they might have?
No, I'm sorry. What I meant is, when will you move into the Magnolia House and it becomes the home of the society and the museum?
Well, we have moved all of the materials there already. We have begun outfitting that first floor room already.
Right.
It's just simply the quilt that I mentioned, I'm having framed by a company in Hattiesburg, Mississippi. And as soon as that's ready, we will be hanging that in a place of honor in that history room. It's really just a matter of finding the time to get it done.
Yeah. Okay. A lot of organizations, just for your information, a lot of organizations have people and companies in the local community, in the whole county. They sponsor a room in the museum and they decide what the wallpaper is going to be and help with the exhibits and everything in that one room.
Mm-hmm.
Cathy, how do you keep the community members informed about recent activities and news?
I post frequent notices on Facebook about our upcoming meetings, and I publish lengthy, detailed descriptions replete with photographs of past meetings in the Tylertown Times and on Facebook. For now, this takes the place of a newsletter or website, which is, as you know, is still being developed. When our website is operational, it will be the go-to source for news. But right now, it's Facebook and the Tylertown Times.
Yeah, you do a good job with both. Great job.
Thank you.
Many hands make light work. Can you share some of the volunteer opportunities available for those who want to contribute to your organization's work?
As we get our fundraisers underway, maybe sometime next year, we certainly want volunteers to help with that effort. And what I'd like to say now, this is not very glamorous, but I feel that it needs to be said. Our organization's contribution to the community consists primarily of our meetings, which we are now doing quarterly. We do not have standing committees for the most basic things. And this message goes to any of the local people who might be listening to this podcast. For example, contacting members about upcoming meetings with RSVP instruction, whether by text, email, or snail mail, or phone. In the past, we have one member Myrna Cassiola is our sweetheart member who has volunteered to telephone every single person prior to a meeting. But it would be nice if this task was shared among a few people. Preparation for meetings, which entails washing and folding tablecloths. I hate to take up our time on this worldwide podcast to talk about washing and folding tablecloths, but these are the sort of basic functions of a meeting. Securing gifts for speakers, overseeing meals during meetings, including the setting of the table, the serving of the food, making the coffee, a cleanup committee to tidy the kitchen and meeting room after the event, to organize volunteers who wish to contribute dishes or desserts. Now, I have had women to volunteer and men to volunteer to do some of these things, and I appreciate them so much. But I think we need more people to do that. So please, volunteer.
Fantastic. Thank you for that. I hope everybody out there is listening. Remember, it's called the Walthall County Historical Society, so anyone in Walthall County or the area can volunteer. Cathy, what significant properties or spaces does your organization maintain, and what makes them unique?
So the Historical Society considers Founders Cemetery within its purview. While the town of Tylertown maintains the grounds, we are responsible for the maintenance of the monument. And as stated earlier, this is a historic cemetery. It is 184 years old. It is recognized by the Mississippi Department of Archives and History with a state historical marker. So it is an important historic site in Tylertown. And now we have the museum in the Magnolia House to manage. And fortunately, that space is always occupied by its owners and is supplied with cameras. So we feel security is not an issue there. However, the museum will be an ongoing project as we intend to have rotating exhibits in the history room. But that again is a unique space insofar as while on the one hand it's a place of business, it is a historic house that once belonged to Ford Connerly, who's descended from the original settlers of Tylertown, one of the oldest houses in Tylertown. So we are very proud to have that as our new museum.
Thank you for sharing that. What books or articles or online resources would you recommend for people eager to learn more about the history of the area?
First, I would recommend Luke Ward Connerly's History of Old Pike County, 1789 to 1876. The History of Old Pike County by Luke Ward Connerly. This book, the entire text of this book is available online at Internet Archive. After it, Dr. Lampton's Chronicles of Walthall County, Reverend Fred Applewhite's When My World Was Young, and From the Beginning, a Pictorial History, which has a wonderful introduction by Dr. Lampton. Copies of all three of these books are available in the Walthall County Public Library. Of course, there are many newspaper articles about the history of this area available online. If you have a subscription to historical newspapers, I would also recommend the Historical Society's website when it becomes available, as it will contain the dozens of articles I have written about the history of Tylertown and Walthall County and accounts of our meetings, including pretty much the presentations of our speakers, pretty much verbatim. And finally, please subscribe to the Tylertown Times, which weekly has news of our town and county and historical information as well.
Yep. And they got a great website. You can go on there and subscribe. It's easy.
That's right.
Now, I'd like to provide listeners with the contact information for the Walthall County Historical Society once again. Their website is coming online. It's under construction. It's called Walthall County Historical Society.com. Facebook page is facebook.com. You can either search for Walthall County Historical Society or just go to Chance 7 Harvey and you'll go straight to the page. Their address is P.O. Box 405, Tylertown, Mississippi, 39667. And their phone is 228-223-3984. And if you want to buy the 1922 cookbook copy, and that sounds very interesting to me, I may actually buy a copy of that because I love old cookbooks that have these wonderful recipes in them, or some of the note cards, or you want to donate something, please, by all means, send an email to c.chanceharvey@gmail.com. And you can also go to the Facebook page and message the Historical Society if you're interested in one of those products. Okay?
From the beginning of pictorial history, which covers the history of our town.
Oh, of Tylertown. Okay, got it. If anybody has a copy of that book, send it in, guys. Historical Society's looking for it. Cathy, how does your organization seek to recruit and integrate young talent into its volunteer activities?
So as we said, one of our major projects for next year is to produce, again, our Founder Cemetery play. That is not only a great source of entertainment, but teaches the history of this area as well. So this time we plan to write parts for young people so they can participate. It will be a fun way to introduce them to what it means to volunteer for a good cause and to learn local history. And we hope to perform this play every year from now on.
Oh, that's great. That is great. To include the youth of the area. Oh, yeah, that's wonderful. And you guys will have so much fun.
Yes.
Cathy, can you share some current projects or goals your organization is working on that the community can help with?
One of our more ambitious goals is to create a new photographic study of the history of Tylertown and Walthall County, a reimagining of that book from the beginnings of pictorial history. In order to do this, we need historical photographs, some of which are perhaps in the possession of local people. People in the community could actively participate in the creation of such a book by scanning their photos. You don't have to give us the original photographs. We're not asking for original photographs. If you could just just go to Office Depot and have them scan them for you, your historical photos, and email them to me at c.chanceharvey@gmail.com or text them to me at 228-223-3984. They could serve another purpose also, which is to contribute to the exhibits in the new Walthall Heritage Museum. We are looking for artifacts also that would be appropriate for the museum. And we're asking not for things that, you have in your attic that you just want to get rid of, but things that are of some value sentimentally or to contribute to the history of Tylertown that will be taken care of now that they're in a secure location that is monitored by cameras.
Fantastic. Great. Hope everybody does that. I remember one time I was working with a historical society in Illinois, actually, and they had just found some photographs that were on glass negatives in the basement of the old courthouse.
Oh, wow.
And they resurrected those, printed them, and sold them for donations. And they were wonderfully clear, beautiful photographs.
That's incredible.
Yeah. Now, Cathy, in your opinion, how can we motivate younger people to connect with history and engage in community initiatives?
Of course, the best way is through education. I want to say right here that you have certainly given me an idea in that regard. With that story of the cemetery in Michigan with the young people, the young descendants of people buried there coming to clean up the area. I think that would be a great thing for us to do with Founders Cemetery as a way of connecting young people to our local history. So I hope, though, in the future that the Historical Society will sponsor, in conjunction with the schools, field trips to some of the local historical sites, such as the China Grove Methodist Church, Founders Cemetery, even the railroad depot. Perhaps such visits, such field trips could be followed up by essay or art contests, with the winners making an appearance at our Historical Society meetings to talk about their work.
Fantastic. That episode, by the way, is episode 88, the Brighton Area Historical Society. Cathy, how does your organization stand out in serving the community and what makes its role particularly valuable?
Well, Tylertown has other organizations, such as the Friends of the Library, the Arts Council, a political organization. Ours is the only organization that educates the community specifically about the history of this area and of Mississippi in general, and celebrates that history. Its role is valuable insofar as the society is active in producing concrete results, permanent contributions to the community, such as the state historical marker for the courthouse, the iron fence, and upcoming mini restoration of Founders Cemetery, the creation of a historical museum.
Yep, fantastic. Yeah, a lot of those folks are putting QR codes on historical markers now so that kids and adults can scan the QR code with their phone, and it takes them to a link on the Historical Society website that gives them more information about whatever the marker's about.
Wow, that is fantastic. We aren't that sophisticated yet, but that would be great.
Yeah, you will be though. That's why I mentioned it. Now, Cathy, with unlimited funding and volunteers, what goals would your organization prioritize, and in what ways would it expand or transform its impact?
With unlimited funding, we would have some pretty lofty goals. We would like to obtain more state historical markers from the Department of Archives and History for historic sites in Tylertown. These are pretty expensive. I would like to see a restoration of the China Grove Cemetery. We would like to establish a scholarship fund at one of the community colleges. And ultimately, if we won the lottery, we would like to buy an empty building, one of these empty storefronts downtown, and expand the scope of our historical museum.
Oh, that would be way cool.
That's not going to happen, but it's a nice dream.
Yeah, it is. And it's something that I wanted people to hear your vision of what it might be like if everybody volunteered and everybody donated, become a member, support, and you can make some of this stuff happen.
Well, for example, right now, the fellow who spoke at the September 16th meeting of the Historical Society restored the George Collins house in Tylertown. This was the one I mentioned earlier. George Collins was the first elected mayor in Tylertown. His home is one of, if not the oldest, at least one of the oldest standing houses in town. And our speaker, Brian Askew, talked about the George Collins house, which he restored many years ago. It's a beautiful place. And the landscaping that Brian has done around it is beautiful. Now, I believe it's on the National Register of Historic Places. But Brian deserves a historical marker for that house. We'd like to get one for him. And with sufficient donations, we could do that. And it's not for Brian Askew per se. It's to have a state historical marker out there on the highway, because it's right there on Highway 27, that people would see going and coming from Tylertown. It's an important thing to do.
Yeah. And it reminds people, hey, there is a historical society, and they're very active. Cathy, is there any additional message or important information you'd like to share with the community or your members?
I'd like to leave our listeners with this thought, a quotation from another of our Pulitzer Prize-winning authors from Mississippi, William Faulkner, from his 1951 novel Requiem for a Nun. The past is not dead. It is not even past. Meaning the past is not something that's done and over with. It continues to shape who we are today and how we act in the present. Historical events continue to reverberate in our community, affecting our present circumstances and our future development. Help us preserve our local history and join the Walthall County Historical Society.
Fantastic. Thank you for that. Walthall County is very lucky to have you and the volunteers and the new Historical Society. I'm very grateful for your time and insights today. It's been fascinating to hear about the dedication and heart you put into serving your members and the community. It's been a real highlight to meet you and to chat with you. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Sean. I appreciate you.
And with that, we'll end our time with our guest president, Cathy Chance Harvey. Listeners, please stay tuned for my comments and wrap-up, which is coming up next. Well, welcome back. What an incredible journey we've taken today. Our guest for this episode was Ms. Cathy Chance Harvey, president of the Walthall County Historical Society in Tylertown, Mississippi. Cathy's a sincerely dedicated, eminently qualified, intelligent, knowledgeable, and capable leader who's also a fantastic writer for the Tylertown Times. She's given us a gift today, provided stories of the area, its unique beauty, and the value of its history to our country. I'm deeply grateful to have had her as our guest and to learn more about the excellent support the Society receives from the people of Walthall County. What struck me most about our conversation were the deeply human stories that connect past to present. We heard about the roots of Tylertown, once Connerly's community, and the family history that helped shape the town's very name. We explored the romance and myths of the railroads, from the New Orleans and Great Northern Depot to the enduring legend of a tunnel under the town. Cathy walked us through the history of China Grove Methodist Church, built in 1861 and still holding its spring gatherings, even with its sobering reminder of the era's slave gallery. We smiled at the unforgettable tale of milk-sucking rabbits that once put Walthall County on the national stage. And we were inspired by the Phantoms of Founders cemetery play, which brought history alive through costumed storytelling, humor, and heart. These are the stories that remind us history isn't just in books. It's in the lives, laughter, and legacies of everyday people, and indeed, the very lifeblood of Walthall County, Mississippi. The Walthall County Historical Society itself has accomplished so much in such a short time since its revival. From securing a state historical marker for the courthouse and jail, to restoring Founders Cemetery, to raising funds for tornado relief, and honoring community leaders, the Society is actively shaping the future by preserving the past. And of course, Cathy announced some truly exciting news. The Society has found a new permanent home in the historic Magnolia House, which will serve as the site of the brand new Walthall Heritage Museum. That's a milestone worth celebrating. But as we all know, the work of preservation is never finished. The Society still needs community support, volunteers to help catalog and curate museum artifacts, and people to assist with meetings, fundraising for projects like historical markers and cemetery restoration, and younger generations to step in and carry the torch. The Society is looking to create standing committees for events, finances, education, partnerships, exhibits, and volunteers. Please do sign up for one of these committees. It really helps. Cathy reminded us that the dreams are big, from educational programs to scholarship funds, and even more restored historic sites and markers. And with the help of the community, these dreams can become reality. The future for the Walthall County Historical Society is so bright. So please get involved, support the projects, volunteer, and join the great work they are doing on behalf of the community. The Walthall County Historical Society is truly one of our nation's preservation oaks. By highlighting their story today, we shine a light on the extraordinary work being done in towns across America. Work that inspires us all to treasure, preserve, and pass along the heritage of our founders and communities. So on behalf of Preservation Oaks, thank you, Cathy, for your time, your wisdom, and your vision. And thank you to all the volunteers and supporters of the Walthall County Historical Society who make the mission possible. All right, I'd like to provide listeners with the contact information for the organization one last time. Their website is walthallcountyhistoricalsociety.com, and remember, it's under construction. Their Facebook page is facebook.com. You can search for Walthall County Historical Society, or just go to facebook.com/chance, CHANCE7, the number 7, Harvey, HARVEY. You can email them at c.chanceharvey@gmail.com. Their address is P.O. Box 405, Tylertown, Mississippi, 39667. So please write a check for a donation and send it in. Their phone is 228-223-3984, and you can use that to order cookbooks from 1922 and other years that are early in our history. If questions occur to you and you'd like more information, please connect with the Walthall County Historical Society via the contact information just provided. If you're a listener in the area the organization serves and you're not already a member, please consider joining and supporting them. I hope this information helps the audience understand how valuable the Walthall County Historical Society is to the community and what kinds of excellent services they have to offer to their members and the public. The Walthall County Historical Society is truly one of our Preservation Oaks. All right, that's a wrap for this episode. Music used today is from Cymbalbird, Joel Lopez, Sync Hits, Music Cocktail, Luke P.N., and Scott Holmes. Hey, this is Sean Radcliff. See you all next time on Preservation Oaks. And until then, keep on giving and keep on living the good life.
MicroStream Radio is a registered trademark. You can visit at www.microstreamradio.com. This broadcast is owned and copyrighted by MicroStream Radio. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, reproduced, copied, or used anywhere without the written permission of MicroStream Radio. Preservation Oaks starring Sean Radcliff originates in Salt Lake City, Utah. Be sure to join us for our next episode on your favorite podcast platform. This is Matthew Adams speaking. Preservation Oaks has come to you through the worldwide podcast platform Podbean, and our home is preservationoaks.podbean.com. Hopefully you found today's episode useful, informative, and thought-provoking. If so, please like, follow, comment, and or subscribe. Remember that being free means being free to be curious, and that historical and genealogical societies and museums allow us to discover the past, be free to explore where curiosity opens every door. Thanks to everyone for listening. Stay cozy, curious, and keep exploring the incredible stories that shape our world. Remember to cherish and support the preservation of history in your own communities. The content of this program is provided for educational and informational purposes only. Some material included in this program may be copyrighted by third parties. However, under Section 107 of the U.S. Copyright Act, the doctrine of fair use allows the limited use of copyrighted material without requiring permission from the rights holders when used for purposes such as education, criticism, commentary, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. These uses are legally permitted even if they might otherwise constitute infringement. If you wish to use copyrighted material from this program for purposes beyond fair use, you must obtain permission from the copyright owner. If you believe your copyrighted material has been used in this program in a way that does not qualify as fair use, please contact us at Preservation Oaks at gmail.com. Thank you,